All right, fantastic. We are live this evening. I am really, really excited tonight to have a couple of my heroes, a couple of men that I really respect, I hold in super high regard. I have to introduce each in turn as we go, but I would like to start with one of the goats. In fact, Bible Marriages and I together were talking a little bit ago that Mike Allen's videos on polygyny years ago helped to influence, grow us. And Mike, you and I have done some done some videos together before, maybe live, maybe I know we've done some live stuff, and maybe we've done
Live.
some. I think I've been on your channel and you've been on my channel before. But
Yes.
fantastic, welcome back. So glad to have you, brother. And I'm excited to kind of catch up with you. He got on here a few minutes ago and kind of started telling me a little bit. I'm like, whoa, 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 save the fire for the don't burn it all up now. Save your bits. Welcome,
Shalom.
brother. I'm excited to have
Yes.
you.
Yes. I'm excited to be here, man. I'm always ready to rock and roll with you, brother. And it's an honor. It's an honor. I'm grateful for the brotherhood, the friendship, the relationship. We don't get to see each other as often as we should and could. But I get it. We're busy. I mean, that's the whole ideal about being fruitful and multiply, replenishing the earth means that we're gonna branch out.
Yeah.
You know,
Amen.
the Father's never intended that, we just stay in one geographical location and not branch out. As we get larger, as a kingdom, as a people, as a family, I mean, I would just say it's a modern construct, I think, of trying to do family reunions and trying to keep the family together all in one place. And you want grandma and great grandma and aunties and uncles and everyone in the same house. It's just not impossible. If you're gonna grow, you're gonna have to branch out. You're gonna have to, enlarge your tent, and that's just the
Now,
reality of it. So
now we have never met face to face, but we will meet face to face later this
indeed,
year. We're going to talk
indeed.
about that here in a little bit. I definitely
In a
want to talk
few
about
in a few more months, in a few more days.
Yep. So we're going to talk about that here in a little bit because everybody else on this chat is invited to come join us.
Okay, that's okay.
That's,
Just leave it there.
Now, the other that we have here this evening, my viewers are very familiar with Brother Bible Marriages, and I am so excited to have him on here this evening. Now, we've done a bunch of work together on different stuff, and I actually met you for the first time face to face back in December, I guess, was the first time that we met, and we will see each other later this year as well. So,
yes, sir.
I'm excited to have you as well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Excited to be here. I always enjoy the opportunity to get on one of these with you. And like I was telling you in the back room, it's the first time getting on one with Mike. So excited about that for sure. And yeah, it's already been that long since that first time we met. Didn't feel like that long ago, but yeah, definitely looking forward to this summer, getting together, getting to meet you guys. Well, meet other people that I haven't met in person yet. So yeah, looking forward to all of this.
So fantastic. I'm excited about that. I really am. And I know you've been helping a whole lot with putting the conference together. And so this is something we'll get to talk about in a few minutes as well. But fantastic. Good to have you. What are some of the projects that you are currently working on? I know you've got different stuff. You've always got irons in the fire. I know that people can find you on X and on, let me see if I can remember here. I know I've got you on X right here.
Yeah, it's at Bible Marriages on X, on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
Oh, so I can edit the banner to say X, YT, Insta.
Yeah, everywhere. And BibleMarriages.org is my website. So
okay. Fantastic. So guys, Bible Marriage is going to be with us this evening, and Brother Mike. Brother Mike, I muted you there for just a second.
No, I know.
Okay, guys. Yeah.
I'm on daddy patrol tonight, guys.
And that's all right, man. If you've got to get up and take care of business, that is perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
We are all about headship and patriarchy and masculinity and all that good stuff. So Good stuff. Good stuff. What are some of the projects that you've got going on right now? You have been doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm juggling. But first, I just want to say it's an honor and a pleasure to be sharing the platform with Bible Marriages. We definitely, it's been on my heart. It's been on my mind to want to work with him. Prayerfully, we'll be able to do some work together. Moving forward, I'd love to get him on a platform. We've talked about it, the brothers, Sister Deborah and I, we've all talked about, getting him on, and it will be an honor and a pleasure. And I just am grateful to be able to just meet him in person, although virtual. All right. But I'm glad for tonight.
Right back at you, brother.
Yeah, back at you. Yeah, definitely. So the other thing, in terms of what we're doing is about finishing up books, really. Myself, Sister Deborah's finishing up some books. We're putting together some programs, getting ready for the conference, right? Getting ready for the conference. And some other business projects. Yeah, for sure.
Now the goal is to have the books at the conference.
That's the goal. Wow. That's what we're pushing. We're pushing prayerfully, right? Yeah, right. Prayerfully to get everything in to have them there for the conference, as well as some other products. So we're working on these other products. It's not just my book. Sister Deborah has a book as well that she's working on, and prayerfully we'll have them both printed. And
now, Sister Deborah, anything you can tell us there?
We haven't, as of yet. Most people can assume, but we have not yet. So we wanted to wait. But
okay.
As many assume that there is, I'm gonna hold it off, right? I'm gonna hold it off. Yeah.
All
but
right.
Yeah, needless to say, everyone will find out soon, right?
Fantastic.
You can take it from there.
Very excited. Very excited.
Yeah, and so am I.
Well, cool beans. So I do know that you were working on a book, because at least one book, because I think I was honored to write a foreword for it, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Events happening with the family, personal things going on, and life, right? And so it kind of like impeded upon me, then I had issues with an editor. So now one of the brothers that are in the group has, stepped in and he's doing the editing. Yes, thank God for the kingdom.
Yeah,
right?
Amen.
And so with that, and Sister Deborah, she's been helping with me a lot as well. And then she's having things been going on in terms of her world. And but needless to say, it's like Yah seems like in his timing, he has a way of making everything right.
Amen.
We can want something when we want it, but when he does it, it's always going to be when it's supposed to be. And that's the difference. And so, I mean, it's the crazy thing is the book is not a large book. It's, I finished the draft in like 21 days, but it's the revisions. Maybe I need to add this. Maybe I need to take this away, just wanting to be able to be careful.
Yes, amen.
And what we put out there, we don't want to just put anything out there just for the sake of putting anything out there, right? So that's it. And it's a topic that's quite, controversial in a certain sense. And so I wanted to be able to at least try to dot my I's and cross my T's as much as I could.
Right.
And still it's a topic of a debate, and I know that there's going to be many that's not going to agree with my position. Right. And that's okay. I have thick skin, and, but this is about us learning, right. As a community. Right. And that's the way I take it. So, yeah, indeed.
Did you say 21 days?
Like 21 days. Like
that's so funny.
Yeah.
Because I was, as you were talking about that, it reminded me of a conversation that I've been having, because in my personal life, it's just been like constant battles over the last few months, just like, all the time, just battles, things get in the way. So as you were talking about that, it just brought to mind what we've been talking about in the spiritual realm, how, there's always these battles going on that we don't see. Right. So there's just angels fighting demons and all of that to get in the way. And the more that I think at least, the more that we are trying to advance the kingdom, the more it makes sense for the enemy to expend resources upon us, right? So,
Amen.
but then as you were saying that, I was looking up the scripture, and it was Daniel 10:13, where he says, "But the prince of the kingdom of Persia was withstanding me for 21 days." And literally, as you said 21 days, I read 21 days in that scripture. And I was like, did he just say that, or did I just hear that? Because I was reading it. And, it talks about how, Michael, the chief angel, had to come and help basically to get past that. So all that just tied together. I just thought it was a cool moment for me. I just wanted to share with you guys.
And not to get too mystical, my name is Michael, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. Like last year, June, is when I had the rough draft. I sent it to Brother Pete, Brother Hondo, and it just since then, it just was just one obstacle, one event, one situation after another, and it leads you up to where I am today, right? So
and sometimes the Father's timing is perfect, and He may put a delay on it for a period of time. One thing, you mentioned that it was that you've used some people in the fellowship or in the community for the purpose of doing the editing and some other stuff, and I know that within the community, I've had helps with a lot of different things. It's just a shameless plug for a couple different things here, because we, all three of us, very much agree with working together and working with brothers who have skills and talents and businesses and all this kind of stuff. And Assembly of the Righteous is one of the places that's a free place that people, if they agree with the basic nine things that we have in a very brief statement of faith, add your name to the list. If you've got a business, if you've got a personal, you can put your name in the fellowship finder. You can potentially find others in your region or area, but put your name in there. And then there also the business section. If you've got a business, that can be added. We can add that to it. I know I'm delinquent right now. I've got at least one who may even be in the chats here that I need to get his information up there for an app that is a time management app for families. But I need to get that written in there as well. But we've got different families and businesses and stuff listed there. So absolutely, there's that, and then another place to catch up with people. And potentially work together on stuff is over on our Patreon. And Brother Mike is an elder in our Patreon, and BibleMarriages is an active member in our Patreon. So that's another place just to be able to, $5 a month in the Telegram group, you can connect with a whole lot of people who are of like mind all over the country and parts of the world and stuff like that. So yeah, different resources that are available to people out there. But let's talk about. Well, go ahead. You have something?
Sounds like he's muted.
You got the mute up.
I'm sorry. I'm childproofed. I said I mean.
No, it's all good. You just got to reach over there and hit that button every time.
His decibels shoot up every now and then, so I'm just being cautious and aware. That's all.
No, it's all right. We totally understand. We're all dads. We've all had all got children and so on and so forth. So we've been there or done that. But a great opportunity to meet other people of like mind. And this was really one of the things that was on my heart to talk about a little bit this evening. And that's the upcoming Kingdom Restoration Conference. And I am super excited about this. Now, there's the registration for the Kingdom Restoration Conference. But Brother Mike is going to be one of the breakout speakers. He and Sister Deborah, Call for Wisdom, are going to be leading one of the breakout sessions. I know that BibleMarriages is going to be there. And so I'm excited about what we're going to be. But just to right quick throw out a little bit on the purpose, and I'd love to have you men help fill this in a little bit for me. But the primary purpose for the Kingdom Restoration Conference is to gather men and women, families of like mind, so that that understand that the biblical call, the eschatological promise to Israel is that Kol Israel, all Israel, would be restored. All 12 tribes would be returned to the land, will be returned to live under the headship, kingship of the Mashiach, Messiah, Yeshua. And so this really is a conference that is we specialize in, or our desire is to specialize in headship and patriarchy and masculinity, biblical familyhood, right? But talking about lots of other things. I know that at least one of the speakers is going to be talking a little bit about Torah and food for one of the main sessions, and or maybe that's the breakout session, his breakout topic. I forget, but he's got he's a board certified pathologist,
yeah.
Pathologist who is going to be bringing a whole lot of medical wisdom and knowledge to share with us as well. So I'm excited about that. But tell me what some of y'all's thoughts are on the conference. And this will be the first time for both of you coming to the conference. Now, last year was our first year, and we were fairly small. But this year we're looking for we got about 200 seats that we can fill.
Yeah. Indeed.
So
this is, yeah.
Got a microphone.
I'm sorry. Indeed, this is like my first time. It was actually my first time coming to one of these conferences. I mean, back when I started, studying on polygyny back in 2010, 2011, I discovered BibFam, right? And I wasn't able to go for whatever reason. It was either the timing or I had something else going on. Just wasn't able to go. I had situations going on in my household. Coming out of Christianity, it was a lot of things that was going on that kind of got into the way. And it's like, even you had the first conference last year and the timing was because, we had a baby, right? We had a new baby born, right? And so then this year, it's just like everything was just right. It was just right for this time. And like I said, Yah has a way of, allowing the time to be just right. But my thoughts on terms of the purpose of doing this, him gathering his people, is so significant, I believe, in terms of having the conference, because what I get from being on the ground, grassroots, in the trenches, in the streets, right, in terms of live streaming every week, and I'm getting emails coming in, Sister Deborah's getting emails coming in. Look, people are waking up. People are waking up who are in your various religions, particularly Christianity, and they are waking up to the truth. The issue that a lot of people have that are waking up is that when they wake up, it's not necessarily that they're waking up with others around them waking up. So they're in an isolated situation, and so there's no fellowship. There's no one that they can touch. It was just like myself. Like, when I stepped into polygyny, like I had no mentors. I had no one to talk with. All of my mentors, they couldn't help me. Like they couldn't give me any counsel. At most that they could just tell me, well, brother, just pray. That's it. That's all that I can be told. So there's a lot of people that that are coming to the truth, and they are crying out or reaching out or looking around, and there's no one around them. And so they need the fellowship. They need the gathering. And so I think this is so significant because, in terms of uniting people, I think the vision in terms of what you're doing, Brother Pete, in terms of the vision, in terms of online, digitally, electronically, creating fellowships, not just locally, regionally, but globally, right, is what's going on with this ministry. And it's so significant, and it's so timely, and it's so needed within this day. And that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah, all of that. I'll just add to that, in the couple of events, not to this level, not a conference or anything, but just a couple of in-person things that I've been able to attend with my family. I think especially for the women, it's important to get together in person. I think us as men, we can do these online calls, we can talk with each other, text, call, and we can get a lot out of that just as men, but the women don't connect like that. They're much more social creatures in person. So for a lot of men and their wives who are coming into this, there's not like you just said, there's not a lot of fellowship in general, but even though there's fellowship online, a lot of the women don't engage as well in that way. So having these in-person events and getting the women together, and even the children as well, I think is super important. I think Pete would agree with me on that based on our conversation. So, the more of these things that we can do, big conference obviously is a thing, but just doing it regularly throughout the year, locally and regionally as well, to just help the families be more cohesive, help them to learn and grow, and then just give, like I said, especially the women, outlets to help deal with the things that they have to deal with, and learn and grow, and kind of help the scales fall off of all of our eyes better and faster. So.
Oh, you are absolutely making some serious points right there, because I will tell you, in terms of Kelly growing as we were coming to an understanding of polygyny and headship and patriarchy, you're right. The men, because we tend to be more logically wired and processing and this sort of thing, makes it a little bit easier for us just to read the information online, watch some videos online, read our Bibles, put the picture together, and man, this makes sense, right? Ladies who are really wrestling through the emotional challenges of a sudden ground shift is really what it is. I mean, it's a pretty radical shift. It helps them so much if they can look another lady in the eye, face to face, if they can get the assurance, get the counsel, get the encouragement, and just, women need women. There's no question that women need women. I think this is one of the great values of Call for Wisdom online and her channel for women, right? And being able to minister to them. But nothing for a lady substitutes in-person fellowship. And I so encourage men, bring your wives. Now, obviously, what we do is, excuse me, what we're going to do is going to be quite different than what BibFam does at their retreats. And Kelly and I have been to, and Lily as well. She's been to a couple retreats with us, BibFam retreats. But this is oriented. It's polygyny on the side. Polygyny is not the main event. It's on the side. The main event is the restoration of Kol Israel. And as we'll talk about a little bit later on as we move along here, I think the restoration of Kol Israel demands. I don't think Kol Israel can be restored without the return of headship and patriarchy, and at the very least, an acceptance of polygyny. Doesn't mean everybody has to do it. I don't think so. In fact, I don't think most people probably shouldn't, to be perfectly honest. However, for those that are called, you need to do it right. And this is a great place to be able to get around people who are doing it right and who can give wise counsel, where ladies can talk to ladies, men can talk to men. And we, as brothers and sisters in Messiah and as fellow Israelites, right? We can spend time together and really make connection that is meaningful. Let me address two quick comments that in the chats that we've had. At least two people have asked about us putting it on Zoom, and I can't make any promises at this point. It's not something that we've covered or thought about. It's possible for international. We really want to encourage people to be there. We don't want people saying, "Hey, I'll take the easy way out and catch the Zoom, so I don't have to miss work, or I don't have to." Because where the real fellowship happens is between the sessions. It's after the evening session when everybody goes and sits by the pool, or they're sitting around the fire pit outside, or they're whatever the amenities are that the hotel has to offer. That's where real fellowship happens. And you really build some of those bonds. You get those personal questions answered, and you find and meet the people. You don't just hear from the speakers, but you find and meet your people, right? And they may not be the ones that are behind the microphone. It may be somebody who is sitting, in the row in front of you or behind you or two seats over, or whatever, that you make a connection with, and then that's the friend you or one of several friendships you take home that become friends that you walk with for the next 3, 5, 10, 15, 30 years, right?
Yeah.
So at this point, Zoom is not yet an option, though I have entertained it because South Africa has asked me repeatedly for us to broadcast at least internationally. So that option may yet present. If it does, we'll make some big announcements and get the word out there, what have you. There would be a fee, obviously, but we can make that happen as well. I just really need to give hard thought to it because we need people there, right? I don't want to short circuit the process. So, yeah. So, y'all know the speakers. Tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are on the speakers. And we've got Brother Baruch Yonatan. We've got the Killians. Bible, you have worked extensively with the Killians. Tell us what your thoughts are on the Killians, because they're going to be there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. I work with Aubrey pretty regularly. I'm getting pretty close to him, and I know my lady is close to his ladies as well. So both incredibly intelligent people, very well studied in scripture and in their respective professions. So I don't know if they've announced topics yet as to what they're going to be talking about, but whatever it is, I'm going to be all ears. There's always something to learn from them, for sure. So I'm looking forward to all the speakers. I'm looking forward to Mike and the Dr. Baruch, and then obviously Brother Pete. I'm always listening to anything you've got to say. So have we announced any topics from you or from Aubrey?
I thought we had. I know for me, I'll be doing the opening session on Thursday evening. After, of course, we've got music coming from Musical Manna from Nashville. A couple brothers in Nashville that are going to be doing the music and worship, and then I've got the Thursday evening session. And I suspect that mine will probably bring us really to focus on restoration, Shuvah and restoration and prophecies, and really centering us understanding our purpose. So it's going to be more there. And then I know that the Killians, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and let me do this. You keep going, and I am going to bounce over to the restoration link right quick, because I think their stuff might already be written into the link. I have to check with my webmaster.
Yeah, then we have Ryan Ridgely there and Jared Cheshire there as well.
Yes.
Both, again, extremely wise men. So always look forward to hearing them talk. Jared's just always opening up something I've not thought about with his in-depth study of all the scriptures that he is into, and Ryan as well, on just patriarchy, headship, family, and all of the practical things that we need to know and learn and to walk this out in righteousness. So yeah, I think we have a really good lineup, and I think everybody will be blessed by everybody that's going to be there and all the things that they have to talk about and teach. So it's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm excited just to meet so many that'll be in the room. I'm so excited.
Yeah, they're going to be a bunch of brothers that I get to give a hug to that I've never met before.
It's going to be so blessed.
So absolutely. Got the breakout sessions. I don't have the titles for keynotes written in here at this point. So I guess I need to make a note to follow up on some of that and get that up on the registration site. More to do tomorrow. So other things that we're going to do. I know that we've got a couple cool surprises coming. I've got some things that I know are cool surprises that are coming, but not at liberty to say, but it may be things you don't want to miss. Yeah, kind of something like that. Also, one of the things that when you register for the conference, you will get information on how to get a family flag, right? And so we're encouraging everybody to bring their family crest on a flag, and that If you want to bring a family crest on a flag, the instructions on how to do that and where to get the flag are in the registration email. And so the goal is to have every family represented with their flag, have all the flags lined up on one side of the room. We're going to bring some flag stands or flag holders where we can put a whole bunch of men side by side by side. And the vision in my head is down the road when we've got 100 or 200 or 500 families coming, we've got all these flags, and it's just flags and flags and flags for families. And because we're focused on building family, building clan, building tribe, and good patriarchy begins with understanding who you are as a man, and then your family understanding who your family is under your headship. And then for those who know what tribe they belong to or what tribe they're connected to or choose to affiliate with, got your tribal affiliation. You can look at my family flag and it says Gad, right? I believe I'm a Gadite. And my sons believe the same. And that's our tribal affiliation and how we are charting our course. Let's put it that way. So it's right on the family flag. And I have seen the flags that a number of families that are coming, they have sent me pictures just so that we kind of know what's going on there. And, I'm excited. I have seen at least one other flag that says that they are Gadites, and I'm looking forward to seeing where other people believe they fit in the kingdom. So I've seen Levi, I've seen Judah, I've seen some other stuff there too. So
very cool.
Very excited.
Brother Pete, I just got sent the promo image. Sister Deborah just sent me. Can I share the screen?
Absolutely.
Sure.
You should have the ability.
Yeah. I'm doing it now. Yeah, this will be our breakout session that she and I will be doing together. Okay, I might not be able to get on because I think there it goes.
So this is your promo. Your promo is going to be catch the little foxes.
This is with her and I. Catch the little foxes. It's kind of like inspired by one of the live streams that we did probably about a year and a half ago. And it's really about those little foxes that spoil the vine in your home as a patriarch. And so it's a little game that we've come up with where you can play, or we'll play in the breakout session, right?
Right.
Of what are the foxes? What are the little foxes that spoil the vine? And so as a patriarch and as a family, the matriarch, the idea is to discover them and then determine how to solve it.
Very cool. Very cool. I am excited about that. I'm hoping that Dr. Maciel will make a trip. I want to see him.
Yeah, that'll be great. It's supposed to be blessed.
I have to lean on him a little bit. He needs to come to the conference.
Yeah.
I haven't met him face to face. He's in the chats blowing it up, man. I want to see him at the conference. So good stuff. And I'm excited about meeting Sister Deborah too. So that's going to be good stuff.
Yeah. She's excited as well. She's so happy.
I've encouraged.
I'm gonna meet Sister Kelly and Sister Lily, and
yeah. That's absolutely
very
cool.
Yeah, she's happy.
We're gonna have a great time. So I'm excited. But all of these guys that are in the chat all the time, y'all need to be coming to the conference because we need to meet you face to face. We need to be able to put faces with names and learn and grow together.
Yeah.
And continue to
yeah. So. Yeah, a virtual hug is okay, but the real thing is not. There's nothing like it.
Absolutely,
right.
Absolutely. let me throw a real quick kind of a summation of the conference. We've been talking about the conference. I'm going to put this up here right quick for us all to see this.
The most prophesied event in all of Scripture is the restoration of Kol Israel. And that restoration begins where it always has, in the home under proper biblical headship and authority. The Kingdom Restoration Conference is back for its second year. Join us in Knoxville, Tennessee, July 9th through 12th as we gather to study Torah, explore headship and patriarchy, and learn how to build family, clan, and tribe the way Scripture intended. This year's speakers include Aubrey and Dr. Rujane Killian, Dr. Yonatan Baruch, teacher Pete Rambo, Mike Allen of Digging in the Word, Ryan Ridgely, Jared Cheshire, and Deborah Augustine of Call for Wisdom, presenting and leading breakout sessions to guide you toward the restoration of Kol Israel. Seating is limited to just 200 participants, so don't wait. Register today at kingdomrestorationconf.com, and we look forward to seeing you there.
So yeah, there we go.
Yeah, brother Marcial said, y'all willing, he'll be there with his 3 children.
Praise God. Fantastic.
Oh.
And we will have a room for children, and our hope or our expectation is that we will have some teens, older teens, that can help do some childcare, that sort of thing. We don't have a planned childcare, but like I said, we do have a room set apart for that if some families are coming with children. The room itself is next to or near the pool. There is an indoor pool. It's a very nice facility. Kelly and I had a chance to go over there and walk through the facility. It's an amazing, very nice hotel that is on the property of the airport. So if you're flying in, you don't have to rent a car. The hotel will come pick you up, and they can whisk you from the arrivals gate straight to your hotel room in about 15 minutes. So,
Nice.
It'll be nice and close. It's nice and easy. Of course, if you drive in, there's plenty of parking and all that kind of good stuff too. We'll be driving, but yeah, great opportunity to come and fellowship with. Bring your children with you. The registration fee covers for the whole family, but it only has one dinner for the Friday night dinner and one lunch for the Saturday lunch. And so you can purchase extras if you are going to have other family members at the table with you. For example, if your spouse is there, Friday evening is going to be a coat and tie dinner. We also have some professional photographers that are going to be there. You can get family pictures made if you want to have that done while you're at the conference. There is going to be a vendor area. I'm encouraging anybody who is a YouTuber that's in this community. Bring some light equipment, and you can't live from inside one of the live sessions, but you're welcome to put together something or feed something or record, meet with different people and interview and record, and then take that back and edit it and post it. We want that, right? So that absolutely helping those who are content creators that are in this space for headship and patriarchy and marriage and restoration of Israel. We want to create the environment where they can utilize all this, get together, put their heads together, have access to others face to face, and do some of this. So, very excited. All right. So, let's talk for a few minutes. I want to shift gears a little bit and ask you men, we talk about restoration and as the little advertisement there that was so well done by one of my colleagues, as it talks about, the most prophesied event in all of Scripture is the restoration of Kol Israel. And I think in Christendom, we're not really taught this. We're taught, it's all about the second coming, and we're talk about we're going to get whisked away in the rapture, or however it gets painted in church. But that's not what is prophesied the most. In fact, the first coming of the Messiah is not prophesied the most, is it? Was this a fact that was surprising to y'all when you first really kind of started pursuing and understanding Scripture in its larger context? I'm just curious.
No, it's certainly not something that, I said, I for one, probably like many others, becoming Torah observant was something that discovered me. It's not something that I came in through the gateway of polygyny. And as I studied the scriptures, I had to embrace, what it taught concerning slavery, what it taught concerning Torah, the commandments, Shabbat. And so I decided after I had I would say sort of a foundation on polygyny, to keep Shabbat, and then from there, everything else came in. And in terms of, like the restoration of call Israel, a lot of it I learned from you, Pete. So, so I'm still a babe in this, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm not gonna try to act like I'm gonna go get the best seat at the feast.
No, listen,
I-
listen, brother. You're bringing a wealth of knowledge in a different area. You're bringing a wealth of knowledge because I
Yeah.
was literally learning from you in terms of polygyny, where I came with, learned early more of the foundation for the restoration of Kol Israel and traveling to Israel and kind of putting the pieces together, the two houses and everything. But yeah, so we learn and walk together. And we bring our strengths.
Yeah.
Together, right?
Yeah. And it's a journey, it's a ride, but definitely just seeing it from this perspective, it clarifies and it, so many questions, right? It makes things make so much sense. Looking at it from this perspective, back in the days you had the Hal Lindsey and you had the Tim LaHaye and the, Left Behind and them, right? But this just makes it all make so much sense.
I put this comment.
Yeah, brother. No,
quick for you. Do you know Nathaniel or y'all?
I know Nathaniel. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I just want to make sure y'all are connected because I know you're both in the new.
Yeah, no. We have connection.
Okay,
we don't see each other as much. Between he working and I'm working, right? But
Nathaniel, all you got to do is get him, bro, Mike Allen's suitcase. He's coming to the conference.
Can he be a family member? I bring down. Can he be a family?
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. For me, no, I didn't hear anything about Israel or Judah or any. The only thing I heard about Israel growing up in the church, I grew up Roman Catholic and then moved into a little bit of Protestantism with my family and kind of bounced back and forth. But yeah, the only thing I really ever heard about Israel was that God replaced them with the church. Right?
Yeah.
All of my upbringing. And so learning about that just through the scriptures, also, Pete, I've read a couple of your books and others, just like Mike said, after you read through all the scriptures, start to finish, you can't escape the fact that this is the whole story. This is from start to finish. This is what he's talking about, is the restoration of his people. Right. And there's never any talk of getting rid of Israel. Right. I think the thing that I've been wrestling with for a while and trying to, I think I have an understanding of it, and there's still a lot that I don't understand, but trying to communicate it to people is difficult, in that most people think of Israel and they flatten it. They don't think of Israel and Judah as the two houses, right? They don't, they think Israel is Israel, and then the church and Christianity is this separate thing, without a lot of knowledge of the fact that, the house of Israel was scattered into all the nations, right? And then lost, and still to this day really can't identify itself in any real particular way. And so when we read into the scriptures and we read about the Jews and the Gentiles, there's not a lot of understanding of, who are these Gentiles that are coming to Christ, right? The assumption is that, and this is what I grew up thinking, right? There was just the Jews and then there's everybody else.
Right.
But the more that I dive into this, the more I'm seeing that, my belief as it currently stands is that he scattered the house of Israel into all the nations. And as a result, we're all being gathered back up, and we still don't know who we are, right? So who are all these people that are turning to Christ and turning to Yah and having a circumcised heart in a way that wants to obey him? Well, I think it's the lost sheep of the house of Israel who Yeshua said he came for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's it's a beautiful story, and it makes so much more sense. It's just, it's not being taught. It's not being taught in the pulpit, and it's all in there in the scriptures, but you got to go find it.
Right. Right. Yeah, there's there is more written about the restoration of Kol Israel even than the Messiah or the coming first or second, so on and so forth. Although the two are intricately connected, or they inseparably tied. because he is the means by which we are returned. He is the sower who gets to reap from, or the shepherd that has sheep in another field, or, or what does he say in John? Sheep of another flock.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you said folds.
Yeah, it's the same idea. And I think that I held up my book, 10 Parts in the King. Okay. Because this really dives deeply into all of those prophecies and talks a great deal about what Yah's purpose was, and how we who may not be able to trace our lineage directly physically, but how we're grafted in, but very possibly are physically and directly connected. Right? Kelly had a text message the other day from somebody saying, "Hey, do you have any Rambo relatives in Ohio?" And don't have to go back many generations, and we figured out that we were connected in probably Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, in the early 1800s, right? But the point being that if it's so easy to find a total stranger and connect 200 years ago, generationally, how much more so has the seed of Jacob been scattered and has permeated, I believe, everything across the planet.
Yeah.
And this is how Yah ultimately regathers from every tribe, tongue, and nation. And I believe that that there's a high probability that somehow we're all connected physically, but absolutely we're connected spiritually through
spiritually.
Right?
Amen.
Yeah.
I do think that there are multiple parts there, but yeah. So Remnant Traveler in the comment says he's reading 10 Parts in the King right now. You'll have to tell us how it is when you get done. What your thoughts on it?
Yeah. As we're talking about this, I think of the prophecy of the dry bones, coming together right in the valley, and how you literally have some people who may have died drowning in an ocean, burned in a fire, right? Disintegrated, right? For whatever reason. And, not in a cemetery, not around where they may have been born, in another part of the planet. And there's just so many ways that people can be scattered over time, and just to picture and to realize that when we wake up, and like the prodigal son, we come to ourselves, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that we will readily know who's our people, who we've been connected to, but we do come alive. We do come to ourselves.
Right.
And I think that's kind of like a picture of what this experience is like, that many of us are coming alive, right? But we don't know who our people are. We don't know the connections. And one of the things when we 2 years ago, we did the series with Dr. Jan and Brother Jeremy, both Jeremys, right?
Who is Israel?
Yeah, who is Israel, right? And one of the things that we covered and we discovered is that there's nowhere on the planet that Israel is not. You can't go anywhere on the planet that you cannot find traces,
right,
where Israel is not.
Right. And the scattering of the seed was so thorough that you can't say, oh, all of it's brown or all of it's white all of it is, it's not. The scattering of the seed has been thorough.
No.
Kind of like leaven, right?
Right.
The whole lump gets leavened and it permeates the whole thing before the loaf is ready to go into the oven, right? Same concept.
Yeah. So beautiful though.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's exciting too. It's exciting to see what Yah is doing. Now, Lily has been reading a book called Traced. And in Traced, I think she says that if you go back 700 or 800 years, you're connected with more than 200 million people. 700 or 800 years. And I forget exactly what it was. But think about it. Jacob was not 700 or 800 years ago. Jacob was 4,000 years ago, 3,800 years ago, something like that. Well, in that time frame, there's been plenty of opportunity for that seed to be scattered all over. And so the end result is we're all connected. Something else that came out of that book that's really interesting that's related to this. I'll take a quick aside before we come back to kind of where we were headed in the larger picture of things. But one of the things that it talks about is genetic memory. And I think in Western Christianity, we've been taught that this is kind of woo-woo, right? You don't want to get involved in that woo-woo stuff, right? But the reality of it is, from an Eastern mindset, we're deeply connected with our ancestors. I do not believe in reincarnation, nor do I believe in ancestor worship. I want to be clear on those things. But if you read scripture and you read the genealogies and you read the retelling of the histories, as we were doing today in part of our Torah study, the reality is that we are deeply connected with our forefathers. I don't care who you are. You're connected to your forefathers. Excuse me. And it reminds me a little bit of, one story I like to tell is the genetic memory that monarch butterflies have. And y'all have probably heard me tell this before if you've listened to some of my videos. But I think a study was done years ago that indicated that a monarch butterfly born on a particular branch, or exits the chrysalis on a particular branch in Southern California, will fly south towards Mexico and lay an egg and die. And the baby, the caterpillar, will grow up, and then it will fly further south, somewhere into Colombia or Peru, or so. I forget how far south they go. Live, lay an egg, die. That butterfly will fly back up to southern Mexico or somewhere down in there, lay an egg, die. And that butterfly, four generations, that butterfly will fly up to Southern California and land on the same branch of the same tree that its ancestor 4 generations ago left. How do you do that? How does that happen, right? There has to be within our DNA some form of genetic memory. And one of the things that I would say for me, it was really confirmed when we were in the land the first time. We were in Israel the first time. And literally, people said, oh, you're going to have this great experience. I know you're home. And no, I got off of an airplane. The tarmac was hot. The airport was hot. The weather was hot. It was just like, okay, it's good food. It's a cool place. This is nice. The med's pretty, all this. But there was a day, and I can tell you, it was Shavuot 2015. It was on the day of Shavuot. We were driving around the south end of the Sea of Galilee and up into where, I think that's where the brook Cherith comes in or whatever, to climb up onto the top of, or you drive the snaking road up onto the top of the Golan. And the land on the other side of the fence to our right as we went up there was calling my name so much. It makes my skin tingle. I get goosebumps just talking about it. It's emotional. And I said, what is that land right there? And I had to know. And that is where the Gadites were. Everything in my being says that's where I belong, is that piece of land right there, that area. And one of these trips, we're going to go over into Jordan, into that area, and just have a chance to visit and walk and whatever. And I think that maybe more will be confirmed at that point. But that was the point that my whole being, it was like, that's home. That's home. That's home. Right. And that was my experience. And for me, that was the confirmation of this genetic memory kind of thing. Because I love the land. I love being all over Israel. I enjoy it, driving through the hills, the Judean trees, the pines. I love it. It's wonderful. But that land is different. That land is special.
Yeah. When you talk about the genetic memory, it makes sense to me. Like when you think of the instincts of animals, right? Like you can take an animal, remove it from the wild, put it in a cage, and it will instinctively do the things that's been coded within it. Like it may have been raised without its mom, without its pack or what have you, but it'll instinctively do things that it's already coded deep within it. Yeah. So it's like all throughout creation, this idea of memory, right, of DNA, is how beasts, animals, creation functions, right, to a certain degree.
Yeah. I was asking the ladies that are over here, because we were talking about another animal recently that has, that there's evidence of genetic memory like that. But Lily made the point when we were talking about this a while back, that the amount of information coded on the DNA for your body, the amount of information could fill voluminous libraries.
Yes,
which means it can include a lot of this stuff. And we know that Yahweh remembers and blesses to 1,000 generations, and we know that the sins of the fathers can be visited on the children for 3 and 4 generations, and this kind of thing. So those kind of things can be carried on. Yeah, epigenetics and that kind of thing. So anyway, where were we going with all of this? Because it sounds like we're off track. We're talking about restoration.
We're kicking it, Pete. We're kicking it.
Yeah. I specifically, though, wanted to talk about the importance of headship and patriarchy and masculinity in this journey, because there are a lot of people in the Torah community that we keep Shabbat and we eat clean and we do the feast and it's all cool. But they don't understand that central to all of this for our restoration is getting our families and clans right. And so let's talk a little bit about Mike. You do Masculinity Monday. You're still doing the Masculinity Monday?
Yeah, man. We kind of like changed the name simply because we've had an increase of sisters.
Okay. Well, yeah, you definitely don't want to be doing masculinity.
Yes, one of the brothers made some suggestions, right? In terms of splitting it up. So we changed Masculinity Mondays to Man Cave Mondays, right? And that's bi-weekly. And the offset weekends is Matriarchy Mondays. So we have Matriarchy Mondays, and then we have Man Cave Mondays, right? And so the purpose of Man Cave Mondays is obviously to talk about subjects near and dear to biblical masculinity, patriarchy, polygyny, a man's building his home, his house, and the like. Yeah.
And so this is very important for the restoration of Kol Israel. Why?
Because it is a man who Yah first formed from the dust for the express purpose of leading, right? It was always his intent from the foundation of the world.
Okay.
Right. Is for a man to lead his home. And what the Hasatan has done is put the carriage in front of the horse. And so this idea of 50-50 egalitarianism, men and women sharing and leading inside the home, there's an express purpose as to why, not only in creation, but we see at Mount Sinai, we see in the wilderness, Yah giving a blueprint and a prescription, right, to call the men to leadership, of the clans, of the households, even going to fight in war, circumcision, all of these are indications of the fact that Yah's desire and his design is that the household be led by a man. It's the man that the books, the letters are written to. And in turn, the men, it was their responsibility. It is a responsibility to teach the family. So much so you get on over into Corinthians, Rob Shaul, he's teaching a Greek congregation, right? These Hebraic concepts, that is shameful for the woman to now get into conversation in the assembly when she has a husband sitting right there, or she has a husband at home, right? Putting it back to Yah's original intent, right, is that the man will lead. We know that it was the man who taught the woman in the garden. And so it's simple. I mean, it's throughout, but Christendom has pretty much taught away from it.
Right. And I agree. We see a lot of this. And one of the things that you kind of hinted at as you went through there is talking specifically about the assembly, mentioning men going off to war. One of the things that stood out to me when I started understanding this is that the assembly is composed of the men. The men represent their family, represent their women in the assembly. Go to Numbers chapter 1, I think it is. The first few verses of chapter 1. It straight tells us that the men who are numbered for the congregation is 601,000 or 603,550 maybe at that point. But it tells us that it's 20-year-olds and above who are able to go off to war, right? And so that is who composes the assembly, and masculinity. And this is one of the reasons why we focus so much in this ministry, and why all three of us, among others, speak continually of headship and patriarchy and masculinity, because the restoration of Kol Israel is not going to be a whole bunch of individuals. It's going to be families under the headships of the men that are leading, that will be bringing this back together. So
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think we are seeing full well the results of the lack of patriarchy all around us, both in the world and in the churches. And it's not good. There's not anything good that has come from a lack of headship, a lack of patriarchy, which is, father rule, right? Father's not in charge of their house. Father's not ruling over their house well. Just leads to rampant defiling of the land, rampant just immorality. And that's what the enemy does, right? He's always perverting and inverting what Yah's order is. And so instead of having men in control, running things the way that we should be, being the spiritual leaders of our house, which is an image of Christ, right? As the high priest and the king of our house. We have this very milquetoast, egalitarian situation where we're supposed to be submitting to each other, which that's what everybody tells me. And I've been inundated with Facebook comments the last few weeks with this kind of thing, right? The men are supposed to submit to the woman, and the woman's supposed to submit to the man, and it just doesn't actually work. And we're seeing the fruits of that. Everybody that's making these comments and spewing these things, if they were just objective with their situation, either personally or everything that they're seeing around them, and everybody was just honest, we'd say this isn't working, right? We have a huge Christian, big air quotes here, marriage counseling industry for a reason, because Christian marriages overwhelmingly just aren't working very well. Yeah. But they all, they'll tell us every day that, monogamy is the ideal, and the way that they're telling us to do marriage is how Christ told us to do marriage. And it's just not working. But what it also does, it just distorts how we're supposed to actually interface with Yah, and how we're supposed to be in submission to him. Because once you muddy up the man being the head and the woman being in subjection, well, how do you then go a layer up from that and understand how we're actually supposed to be in subjection to Christ? Do we expect that Christ is going to submit to us and to our will? Nobody expects that, no. Right? But we teach marriage is supposed to be a reflection of Christ and his body, right? But then we also teach at the same time that the woman and the man are supposed to submit to each other. Well, we don't teach that, but the church teaches that these days. Yeah. And so I just think that the end goal to that is we have milquetoast marriages and households, and we also just have milquetoast relationships and walks with the Most High, because we're modeling the wrong things on both layers, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh man, no, that makes great sense. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I'm just gonna basically say, I think, like, to sum it all up, the church is just worldly.
Yeah.
I mean, all of the cues, all of the ideas, right? All of the influences is pretty much worldly, right? It's wanting to do what the world does.
Yep.
The marketing strategy, all of it. It's what's the latest thing that the world is doing is what the church wants to do. Like, so in other words, in terms of the church being a pillar of truth, a foundation in the world, it's become a place where people are just being influenced by the world, right? So it's like it's the carriage in front of the horse.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I put a meme on Facebook today that was about how there's so much taught about wives saying husbands need to love me like Christ loved the church, right? But they reject And this is not just women, this is men too. This is the effeminate camp of men who don't want the accountability and the authority, but they say, you know, the husband doesn't have the authority over the wife to tell her what to do, or she shouldn't have to obey him or whatever. And then I was reading Luke 6:46, and you know, it's Yeshua saying, "Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say?" You know, why do you call me master? Why do you call me Lord, but you don't do what I say? So again, in the picture of the husband and the wife, that's the same thing, right? The man is supposed to be the image of Christ to the wife. So
Right.
why do you call me husband, but you don't do what I say? Would be the mirror of that, right? And worse than that, you actually teach, and we've got pastors teaching that you don't have to do what I say, right? You don't have to at all. So we're just, you know, we're all mixed up, and things are in a bad place. And to tie that into what we're talking about tonight, that's where the restoration is. It starts in the houses. It starts with men getting into the word, getting into the scriptures, and understanding what their role is, what it's supposed to be, and stepping up and realizing, you know, I am going to be accountable to the Most High for how I'm leading my family. It doesn't matter what Pastor Bob told me. It doesn't matter what, you know, Priest John told me. Like, the word is the truth, and I'm going to be held accountable for how I led my family. And if I chose not to get into the word, and I chose not to understand out of just fear or just laziness, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You're still going to be held accountable as to why didn't you step up and be the man that I called you to be. Just like Adam, right? That's what happened to him. Why did you listen to the woman, right? And so I think that's the original sin of Adam and Eve. We're still seeing play out over and over and over in households to this day, right? It is a woman who is being deceived and who is adding to the word, which Eve did, and a man who is either being complacent and or just choosing to appease the woman over obedience to Yah. And that is what we wrestle with as men and women every day. And we have to be cognizant of that, and we have to be aware of that, and just step up. And men, you're going to have to learn to say no, and you're going to have to learn to say this is what's right and this is what's not. And women are just going to have to learn to submit, and whether you want to or not. And the men have to do the same thing. They don't get a pass. I have to submit to my master Yeshua, whether I understand his command, whether I like his command, whether I think his timing is off. It doesn't matter. It's my job to say, yes, sir, your will be done, not mine, just the way that he said, your will be done, not mine, to the Father. So if he could do it, we can do it. And that goes for the men and the women.
Preach.
It's like a play that the opposing team is running in sports. They're running this play. You know the play is coming. You know, each time they keep forming and lining up in formation the same way, and it's just somehow, some way, it's just like so hard to stop. And that's what the enemy's pretty much been doing ever since the Hasatan, ever since the beginning. He's running the same playbook. You know, and all we have to do is really just realize that it is the same playbook. It's not anything different. You know, everything the BibleMarriages is talking about here, it's the same playbook from the very beginning. You know which way he's coming. You know how he's lining up. You know who's going to get the ball. You know what he's going to do, right? You know, the same play, the same scheme, the same trick. You know, why allow ourselves to continually being fooled by the same play? And we know it's coming.
Yep.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And, you know, as BibleMarriages was talking, one of the things that occurred to me, I was thinking, how would Israel have done taking the land the first time if the men weren't being the men? Right? What kind of army can you put together if the men don't have enough of a spine to stand up to their woman, right? What kind of an army do you have that can do what's got to be done and go through the hardship, the difficulty of securing the land against enemies, right? The Girgasites, Hivites, Jebusites, Amorites, termites, whatever, all of them, right? Right?
Termites.
All of it. That's right. You can use that line later on.
Yeah, I'm gonna use it. I've already
But seriously, we seem to think, oh yeah. We're going to take the kingdom, and we don't have to be manly men. We don't have to be leaders in our homes. What? I just don't. I don't see that, which is why this is it. To me, it's so important that we get the headship of the patriarchy right.
Yeah.
So because I saw a video by a prominent Torah teacher just a couple days ago, and I respect him and a lot of great stuff that comes from him. But he says, why do we spend so much time fighting about stuff? Why can't we just all get along? And I'm thinking, because some things are worth fighting about.
That's right. That's right.
Just to allow this milquetoast idea out there that we don't have to be masculine men. We don't need women doing what women are supposed to be doing. We don't need the authority structure that God ordained to actually be functioning in Kol Israel. To think that we don't need those things, to me, is ludicrous. I can't fathom, I can't picture, I can't comprehend a restored Israel that looks like the church, or looks like modern Christianity or Western civilization.
Yeah.
I don't want that, because I don't see that in Scripture. I don't see that as an organized kingdom or men and women functioning within the roles that the Father gave them,
right,
ordained for them to walk in.
So, right.
When I have lived it, I've lived it both ways. So I'm not just railing on that side of things, saying, well, I've done this patriarchy thing. I've been on the other side of this thing, and I'm speaking from experience in just the absolute chaos and hell that is living that way. And now on the other side of it, coming into obedience with Yah and getting my house in order, and living, underneath that order, living as best I can according to, his Torah, his instructions. It is not only just the peace that surpasses all understanding in being in submission to Yeshua, in full submission to him, and living the way that he instructs us to, even with all of the war and the battles and everything that comes when you choose to do that, it's still more peaceful than it was living, outside of covenant with him in a very worldly marriage and house, which was just chaos and hell and disorder. So, it's big for me because I've lived it both ways, and I see the fruits of doing it Yah's way, and I want other men and other women and their children to experience the same. So that's a big part of why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I know it is the same for you guys.
Bible marriages. Why you all up in my house, man? I'm still experiencing the remnants, the ramifications, the consequences.
I am too, brother.
Yeah, man, simping did not look good on my teeth, man.
Yeah. Yeah, there's still a lot of consequences that I am still having to deal with as a result of that life that I was living.
Yeah.
But and there's still certain things every once in a while that crop up that, the enemy tries to get me to fall back into those old patterns. But I've been very blessed that Yah has given me a woman that to lead in all of this, in this patriarchal Yah-fearing order, and she's wonderful, and it's been a blessing. And the more that I lean into just trusting him and his ways, the more that he shows me it's absolutely worth it. So I just encourage everybody. It is not easy, but it is simple. And you will, like I said earlier in the beginning of this, like, I do believe the more that you lean into it, the more the enemy is going to task resources to you to slow you down, right? Yes. Because if you're just doing what the world does, he doesn't have any reason to send off his resources to try to do anything with you, right? You're not a threat to his kingdom.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you should fully expect that when you start walking this way, you're going to start getting the attacks, and that's going to come in all sorts of different ways. And you have to just persevere through it and know that Yah will get you through it, no matter how dark it may look. And I've been through some very, very dark days in this, but it's absolutely worth every second of it. So
Yes,
to
indeed.
him be the glory.
I'm going to take a personal point of privilege and do a shout out to my ladies here. They just brought me some treats. So right here, for those who, if you're observing the Days of Unleavened Bread, these are bourbon balls made with matzah and homebrew. I used to love to get my grandmother's bourbon balls. And so it's chocolate and a whole bunch of other goodies. The recipe is on our Patreon website, and it's free. You don't have to be a paid subscriber. It's up there free. So I'm going to put that up here real quick. If you're interested, particularly if y'all are in the middle of the Days of Matzah, here we go. Days of Unleavened Bread.
Nice.
So fantastic. I won't eat on camera for it. I may eat on camera, but I won't do it with the mic open here. But also they brought me some hot tea because I've been battling some kind of a cold thingy or congestion, whatever, and so they're looking out for me. See me here in the background enjoying some of the goodies they just brought me.
Good women.
Yes, indeed.
So, good stuff here with regards to discussing masculinity and headship, the importance of patriarchy. Excuse me. As I mentioned before, polygyny is just a subset of that, but it is something that all of us talk about on the frequent, right? It's often the subject that people find us with because we're among just a handful of men out there having this discussion in public spaces. I know a couple other Torah keeping channels are present now in the comments. I saw Brother Maverick over here, and I still want to get him on here for an interview, Maverick Marquez. And he's got, I think his is pretty big in Instagram, I think is where he's got his.
I think Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. I think him and I recently connected. Yeah, I think so. Facebook. He may be on Instagram as well, and X.
Yeah, fantastic. Would love to. I'd love to interview him. So if you're out there, Maverick, I do want to do an interview with you at some point, and I'd love to invite you to promote the conference to your people. Bring your people, man. Because I think this is right up y'all's alley. We're walking the same way and walking in unity. And I know the Killians would love to see the Killians face to face and that kind of thing because you're connected over at Maximum Potentia, if I'm not mistaken. So absolutely would love to have you.
Yeah,
come on. But polygyny is something, and like I said before, it's not going to be a major topic, but it is a topic that will be on the table at the conference. And I think the ladies will have a ladies only session during the breakouts where they're going to be answering, and they're going to be at least 3 and possibly 4 polygynous ladies that are on the panel. So from that perspective, it's an opportunity for any of the ladies to have time really discussing with and meeting with ladies who are walking this out successfully and doing very well with it. And so get questions answered, you get a chance to meet people face to face and find out if they're real. You can see them in their native environment, operating in a family, this kind of thing. So it's not just, the clean and whatever you assume the persona is with the camera on. This is different. You get to see them at dinner. You get to walk the halls with them. You get to see how they handle their children if they have children with them, so on and so forth. So great opportunity just for that, for the conference, right?
Chaos, as Rico says.
Right.
Yeah.
My ladies are both sitting right here off camera. They're hanging out in the chat section, particularly talking to Call for Wisdom, right?
Yeah, I think like I was saying earlier.
One of them said what you won't see. Let me wrap it up here real quick. One of them said what you won't see is the chaos that is in every polygynous family according to a teacher that I just had to do second
exactly
on. So.
Yeah, like what I was saying earlier, for the women, it's important to do the fellowship too, but especially for women and the men in regards to coming into understanding polygyny. A lot of people are still brand new to it on different parts of their stages of their walk with it. But I just find we come from a culture that doesn't have it around us. We don't see it, right? So we all grew up never seeing this thing. We don't have any kind of framework of reference to what this is or how to feel about it when you first come into this. Even if you say you watch Pete's video and he's got his 2 wives with him, or someone else's. It's one thing to see it on the screen. It's another thing to go and fellowship with these people and just see this is a real family. Like, these women really love this man, and you can just look at the way that they look at him naturally, right? Look at the way they serve him, the way that they interact, the way that he loves on them. It's just it disarms a lot.
They get along very well with each other. They enjoy hanging out together.
Yes. So I think, just if nothing else, for men out there with a wife, if you were, whatever stage you're in on this journey, if you can make it out to this conference, just to turn what is starts off as a lot of theory into something real, and just get some real life exposure to. This is family. We use the term polygyny because it's a technical term for what it is that we're talking about, but it is just family. And it is marriage. It's not a different form of marriage. It's not some other thing. It is patriarchal headship and a man's house. And so the only reason that you have any kind of discomfort with it is because you were never exposed to it. Throughout your entire life, you were only exposed to monogamy. Now, you might be exposed to it in different ways, like, a man and divorce, and we have all this stuff where you have stepmoms and other women, baby mamas and all that, depending on your situation. But you've never seen a man with multiple women who all love each other and they're all in the same house and they're all together at the same time. It's exceedingly rare. So I just encourage anybody that is trying to gain understanding and just gain comfort and move further in that with them and their family to come out to the conference and just, if nothing else, just be around people who have multiple wives, right? And watch how they love each other. And it's a beautiful thing. I've been able to do it a few times with different little meetups and stuff. And I think it's very helpful. So.
Fun comment here with Graybeard with a side reference to the video that I just did or got released actually yesterday. And there's more coming in that series. I honestly, I pray for Brother Rico that he will recant and back up the truck, because he painted himself into a corner, and now it's going to take some humility to walk it back, or he's going to place himself in the middle of the road with Yah's truck running right over him.
Yeah, you made a great point in that video. The way you put together, like, you're allowed to go out, but you need to be back before 10 o'clock. Like, just the way that you framed that was really, really well done. I think it helps a lot of people understand.
Yeah. I cannot take credit for that. That was a direct quote that I took from the comment section of his video, and it was Brother Matthew Shaw. In our Patreon, you know Brother Shaw, who may be coming to the conference. He's trying to arrange things. There's a high possibility that he will be at the conference. But he is in town, and he sees Brother Jan face to face on a frequent basis. They fellowship together frequently. They live in the same town, so it'll be kind of funny seeing those two guys show up because Brother Jan and his family will be there. I'm sure he's bringing the whole family, and that should be a lot of fun too. He's got some amazing children, amazing lady, so that's gonna be good too.
So on that, continuing the idea of polygyny in the topic of this, everything we're talking about, the restoration of Kol Israel, and obviously we know it's a part of it. We see it in Isaiah. We see it in Isaiah 4 in the future, right? There's obviously, this is a part. It's not the whole thing, but we can't ignore it, and we can't act like it's not a critical part of the future of where we're going. And we have a lot of women that need covering, and I think all of us believe that all women should be covered. And so for all women to be covered, it's not possible if polygyny is not on the table. And so I think the way that I see Isaiah 4:1 playing out is Yah is raising up these men and women right now to start talking about polygyny and start teaching on it and exposing his people to it. And I see along the way just a lot of rejection of it. Like, we're out there every day. We're on Facebook, we're on X, we're out in the trenches just talking about polygyny and just getting, just everybody rejecting us and saying, y'all are crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. You're twisting scripture. You know the deal, right?
Yeah.
But no matter what, the seeds are being planted, right? Because the reality is, let's say Isaiah 3 happened tomorrow, right? And all these men were punished and the women are punished. And there's just a few men left. The natural reaction of the daughters of Zion right now would not be, let 7 of us join to one man to take away our reproach, because they don't understand that would take away their reproach. They would have to be exposed to it enough and have rejected it to say, oh, you know what, maybe there was something to that, right? Like, and now I need to get under the covering of a man. So, I just see it playing out. It's our job to just to teach it, right? And to just spread the word, plant the seeds, and do what we got to do. And part of that is men that are actually living it out, men and women and their families. But not everybody's going to accept it. It's not our job to make everybody accept it. It's just our job to tell the truth, And
let me read a relevant quote just before the live. I was taking care of some books that we had in here and getting them sorted out. And I was flipping through Eros Made Sacred by James Wesley Stivers. Fantastic, fantastic book. And I can't say enough good things about chapter 6, titled Feminism, Witchcraft, and Monogamy. They're all connected. There's a secret there. Okay?
Yes.
But I just, you'll see how much I highlight in that particular chapter. And I've talked about this chapter before on my channel. And it's probably time to go back and talk about it again because it's been a couple of years. But there's a paragraph here. He says, therefore, we are back to the assertion that monogamy and prostitution go hand in hand. There has never been a monogamous society in the history of mankind which has not been forced to wink at unchastity. In a polygamous society, there is no excuse for it and can be rightly punished severely. Monogamous societies must be lenient toward the harlot. In so doing, it creates a cultural force in favor of witchcraft. And of course, the reason is because women always outnumber men, right? But the point is Israel, the restoration of Kol Israel, demands that we accept and allow polygyny. Otherwise, by definition, we have to wink at unchastity and have to wink at prostitution as an outlet for the unmarried women.
Yes.
And it's not acceptable. That's just not acceptable, which is another one of the many reasons why Yah doesn't just allow it. He puts boundaries. Yes, he regulates. He says, these are the boundaries. Don't go outside of these boundaries or these regulations. But inside of it, you can do it. Just be wise, be discerning, be a good provider, be a good protector, be a godly man, so on and so forth.
Right.
And that's what we all say, right? We say that over and over.
Right.
Well, if putting boundaries on something is a problem, then marriage in it of itself is a problem, and so is having children, because he's got boundaries that regulate how you marry one woman and boundaries about how you raise your kids.
Right.
So having boundaries is not a problem. Like, we need boundaries.
Right. That's why I think one of the deceptive tools that the enemy uses is the dating game, the dating culture. Right. I tend to, and I've said this many times on my channel, some of the articles, that dating really is it's like a brothel system, right? Because it's really this system that is designed for men and women to meet and hook up, or maybe if it's exchange over a date, a coffee, some ice cream or a burger or what have you, and then the end result is a happy ending, right? And that's not so happy in the long run, right? And what you have is that women are being trained, systematically, that it's okay to deal with multiple men in exchange for a night out on the town or some flowers or what have you. And the result is, a body count that they've raked up, right? A huge body count that's raked up, and they've not prepared for marriage. They don't have the mindset, they don't have the mentality. You couple that with the ignorance of not understanding Hebraic culture, not understanding patriarchy and biblical marriage and polygyny, not, many coming from out of the church, right? So while still in the church, right? Heavily into the dating game, dating culture, dating scene. And as a result of it, they're prostituting themselves at the end of the day. It is what it is. And then they become so proficient in it. They become like witches, because that's what witchcraft ultimately is. It's about a woman trying to manipulate and to control, be it through her body or what have you, what she wants and what she desires from a man. And so now, women have like like they have a man for this, they have a man for that. The man that comes in and fix the plumbing, another man that comes in and puts up the sheetrock. So there's a man for everything. But at the end of the day, it's still a system of prostitution,
Right?
And that's why what we are teaching and what we communicate, the ministry that's been given to us, is to enlighten and to expose those who don't know Yah's picture of what a family is supposed to be, how a marriage is supposed to be, what it's supposed to look like, so that now, as you talk about when Isaiah 3 happens, right? Then they can remember, like the prodigal son, like when he was about to do the ultimate, then he remembered his Hebraic culture, or the rich man who was hard, his fist and his hands was hard towards the poor beggar Lazarus, right? When he was in torment, right? When he woke up in torment, right? Then he remembered Moses, right? He remembered, what he was taught in terms of Torah, right? So it can come back to their remembrance, but there's something has to be able to come back, and that comes through the teaching. That's why this is so important. That's why having the conference is so important, because people need to be enlightened to Hebraic culture, the culture of the kingdom, right? So that now when Yah turns up the furnace of judgment, right, in the society and in the world, now these women who say today that they won't share a man, well, when the furnace is up, sharing a man becomes their best option, right?
Right.
Yeah. And it starts in the home, because the only way that we turn the tide in any way on all of that, which is young women being fed into the dating cesspool, and the young men that are enabling it as well, is that we as fathers with daughters and sons decide not to allow them to, or teach them to go into that system. Right? Yeah. So it starts with us. But to do that, to even stand up as a man and say, one, my daughter's not dating,
right,
takes a certain level of stones that most men today don't have.
Yes.
Because they don't want to tell their daughter no, let alone their wife, who's going to have a problem with it. Right. And they're not teaching their sons not to go into that and do that to women, even to the degree of, like, I believe that, just young girls thinking about all these men, right? Not even actually dating them, but setting their mind and their hearts on men too early is a problem, right? Because they're starting to just play things around in their heads that they're not ready for, right? And or they're getting exposed to just talking to a bunch of men online or whatever it is, right? They're basically being trained up for divorce, which is just, when I don't like this man, there's 1,000 other in line waiting for me, right? Right. And then teaching our sons, and in the same way, don't play with women's hearts, right? Don't go around and just give them hope about something, or make them fall in love with you and play that game just to then, dump them and move on to something else, because you're not serious and you're not ready to actually start up a house of your own. But to do that as a man in this generation and in this world is so countercultural. Like, you've got to get to the point where you're just comfortable being countercultural. And that I think for most men is going to start with just learning how to, if you have a wife already, stand up and say, no, right? I'm a man. This is my house. We need to run it. I need to run it in the way that Yah calls me to, and getting comfortable being uncomfortable. I've had to learn that, right? There's so many things I've had to unlearn in terms of how to do marriage and how to be a man in this world. Because once you start walking down this road and you start submitting yourself to Yah, you start realizing just how much you have to set yourself apart from everything the world expects of you as a man, for your women, for your wives, if you have them, and your children. And it takes a daily level of just being able to be uncomfortable, and being a rock and stoic and saying, I don't care what the world thinks of me. I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I have an audience of one, and I aim to please one as a man. And, not to be rude, but it's not you.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah, I was. You beat me to the punch there, Brother Bible Marriages, because I was going to tell Brother Mike that I have long believed that the dating thing was a practice for his trial run, a training run for divorce, right?
Yeah.
Just practice breakup, so on. But I've never.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've ever thought about it quite the way you just voiced it, Brother Mike, in that it absolutely is a soft prostitution. It's a quid pro quo. I'm going to pay for the dinner, and I expect to get something back
in return.
And so there's this soft prostitution. Essentially, she's prostituting herself for dinner, or a date, or whoever's going to pay for her goodies for a while until she gets bored and moves on to the next guy, something like that. If a lot of that though is driven because of the need for the sexual drive that young people have, right? God gave them that sexual drive, but it's misused in the whole dating scene. If we were in a courtship scene, or in a scene where the father's making the choices and it's marriage for life, we would see a whole lot of young ladies getting married 18, 20, 22, 24 years old tops. And, at that point, now they're making babies, right? Which effectively helps to, again, Yah's ways are better than our ways.
Exactly.
And instead of having a population decline where, many nations in Western civilization and around the world are panicking because of the plummet in childbirth rates.
Yes.
Yet the way to fix it is to go back to his ways and do his things his ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And everything is a mirror image. And so in the same way that we are to have one God and only one God before us, and we are to mold to him and his ways, I believe the same about a woman. A woman is to have one husband, ideally, and she is to mold to him. So the picture of a woman being with a bunch of men is the picture of us in idolatry, trying to have a bunch of different gods and trying to mold to all of them. It's chaos, right?
Yeah.
And we know from DNA and science and all that stuff that, like, when a bunch of men put their seed into a woman, right, it's not nothing, right? It causes problems. There's damage associated with it, right? Especially if you're doing it the wrong way. I'm not talking about a woman who was faithfully married and widowed and had a second husband. I just mean, ideally, the data backs up that the most successful rates of marriage are a woman who was a virgin when she was married, and she stayed with one man, right? And then with every successive man that a woman has, it just drops off exponentially in terms of the relative possible success of that relationship.
Yeah.
So
dude, adding on to that, brother, Bible Marriages, even in Deuteronomy 24, Yah is telling us that, just for a woman to leave one husband through a divorce, go to a second husband, and then return to that first husband creates issues. Right? Creates issues. So the average woman has been with at least 6-7 men, right? In certain communities, 20 and 30 men, right? So you talk about, a woman literally have to fight the tug and pull of the master regulators that is being pulled from the different men that are working within her, right? It's a lot for a woman. So you're talking about the psychological effect on top of that, of kind of like schizophrenia, like being you know, this guy reminds her of doing things this way, and then that guy used to say things that way, and then and all of these are going inside of her head, and then she has these fears like of how this guy hurt her and how that,
Right.
and so it's a whole lot to, you know, fight through for a woman. And you know, so y'all never intended that for his daughters. He's never intended
Mhm.
that, you know, they have to go through that struggle just to assimilate to one man. Never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a hardness that develops through that process in them, because they're, you know, men are designed in such a way that we can have multiple women, and it's not, we don't share those same psychological things, right? There's a physiological difference between the man that puts his seed into and the woman that receives the seed, right? And so as men, we are designed to be able to manage those multiple relationships in the same way that Elohim can have many in subjection to him, right? But when a woman tries to have a bunch of different partners, what she's doing is trying to be a man. She's trying to play that same role that she's not designed to play. And as a result, I think they develop a certain hardness to them because they have to in order to play that game. And so their femininity is stripped, their true femininity, and then they take on the world's version of femininity, which is, you know, this boss babe, yes, queen type of strong woman, quote unquote power, which just doesn't work in a godly home. It doesn't work in a godly marriage, and it just causes chaos and destruction. So, you know,
that hardness that you're talking about is visible too. It isn't just something that is an emotional hardness. There's a visible change of countenance that happens to a woman when she has had multiple partners. Brother Baruch Yonatan and I did a video a couple years ago. It's on my channel. It's a long live discussion that we had titled "Why Women Need Sex," and the bottom line is that a woman needs one partner for life, but she also needs that partner for life because she benefits from that in terms of phytochemicals and pheromones and all these other things that help regulate her and help her out and all these different things. So it's beneficial, but then having multiples and all of that covers much of what you were just talking about there, Brother BibleMarriages. I want to take just a second real quick and highlight, you know, there's a comment here from Sister Call for Wisdom. And I assume you're talking, Sister, about your channel. I know that sometimes we feel the same way in many respects. But for you guys out there that are watching, if you are not subscribed to Sister Call for Wisdom, I strongly recommend the ladies, particularly, because she primarily ministers to women. It's a woman for women or two women, a woman ministering to women. So I can try to be clear on what I'm trying to say here. But fantastic YouTube channel. Highly recommend it. And of course, she will be at the conference. We're excited to meet her for the first time as well. But got a lot of great material and fantastic videos and stuff. Lives in the Caribbean. So very good. We'd love to do a conference down there. Getting there, because as remote as she is, might be difficult for people. But it'd be worth the trip to get down and have be on a remote Caribbean island for a few days and get some quiet and some R&R, all that good stuff, right? But anyway, there you go. I just want to make sure I give a big shout out to Sis Call for Wisdom. We've mentioned her multiple times, and she's been active in the chat here, particularly with my ladies. I think they're all having fun getting ready to talk about the getting ready for the conference and all of that. Shifting gears just a little bit along this same line, you know, talking about for a second that she has been shadow banned, and maybe we have felt the same pressure. I think Brother Michael, you have felt the same pressure. Brother Bible, you have had some recent brouhaha with YouTube. I think you worked really hard to get to the point of being monetized, and the very next day they pulled your monetization and yanked it.
Yeah, it was you got to get to 1,000 subscribers and a certain amount of 4,000 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I had the hours for a little while, but I got to 990 subscribers, and it was just like a slow trickle for months to get that last 10. And for me, just full transparency, like, it's never been about monetization. It's not. It's just a milestone that I think is important as a YouTuber. I think they probably get your content out more. That's all theory. But anyways, yeah, the very next day I get an email from them saying, your account's been flagged, you're demonetized. And I did have about 9 or 10 people that had subscribed, not just subscribed to the channel, but join because you can early on, before you get fully monetized, you can do like memberships where people can pay you whatever you charge. So like I had it for $5 a month or something, and there was like 10 people that thank you guys who joined as members, but they got cut off. That all their memberships got cut off. Basically every way to monetize the channel was cut off the very next day. And I've gone back and forth with them on email and posted a big thread about it on X, and they said they were going to look into it more. But basically, what they told me was, we flagged your account because it's got a bunch of inauthentic content on it, and it doesn't, their phrasing was like, it's not valuable content, and it looks like it's either generated or you're just reading things that aren't your own. And anyways, I've gone back and forth with them, probably 6 emails now, and escalated it as much as possible. So I don't know what they're going to do to it, but or do with it. Yaz will be done. But what it does, it's an important reminder to us that these are platforms that we don't own and we don't control, and the enemy is always looking for ways to thwart and put stumbling blocks in front of us. And so, it was a warning to me. Don't rely on this platform or any other platform. And I do believe Yah has given me some talents that I will probably be using to look into at first step, probably at least starting my own platform that people can support my channel and donate if they will. That'll be as much in my control as possible. So, whether if any of these platforms get big ideas about, I don't like what this guy's talking about, they can't just shut people off from donating to me. And then bigger than that, I think me and Pete have kind of bounced this idea around that maybe we need to start looking at tech and platforms for all of us, bigger long-term picture that we have control over, and we can be sure that they can't just pull the plug on us at any point. Because the more that this message starts spreading, the more we're attacking the ground that they hold very dear. And they've worked very hard to take over. So we have to look at this like the battle that it is, and be wise in everything that we do, and plan ahead. So,
yeah, and this is a really good segue for us to talk a little bit about what we're seeing in the world around us in terms of the state of the awakening to headship, patriarchy, polygyny, the space that we operate in. And I'd love to get y'all's thoughts a little bit on what you are seeing in that regard. And I'll echo. Now, certainly I agree with you. It was a lot of work to get to be monetized initially. And of course, now, even with 8,300 subscribers, plus or minus, something like that, I think for us, we make maybe 60 or 70 bucks a month on YouTube. But it's a little bit disconcerting when they want to even put their thumb on or crimp the pipeline, or crimp the hose, or reduce the algorithm, or whatever they do, in order to try to reduce the message from going out. Earlier today, and so I'm gonna I set y'all up with this because I want to get your thoughts on what you're seeing out there in terms of how the message is growing, others, and what you're seeing on the different platforms that you operate on. But I know that earlier today, Lily started reading Thora after she got past the S's that looked like F's, because it's a facsimile copy of the 1780s writing.
Yeah, that took me a few chapters.
Right. It takes, I kept telling her it's going to be okay. She's like, can we get a copy of this? That's, anyway. It was interesting though, because we did a little bit of a digging into the into the background of Martin Madon, Dr. Martin Madon, and ultimately how he was blackballed and everything that he had to say was hidden from history. How Don Milton found that book and resurrected it, I don't know. But the point that I want to make is that he was the greatest theologian of the late 1700s. Even Charles Wesley and John Wesley pointed at him and said, "That's the man. He's the guy that's the best of all of us," right? And yet today you hear about Charles Wesley and John Wesley, and you hear about their hymns and their sons, grandsons' hymns, all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But do you hear about Martin Madon? You don't.
Right.
And we're living in a different environment here. You know, we were talking today how with the ladies talking the fact that I would love to be able to shake his hand. I look forward to meeting him in the kingdom because he took a very bold stand for Torah. He may not have been a Torah keeper per se, but a very strong stand on a very high view of God's law. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And in doing that, and then being blackballed, essentially completely erased from the pages of history. You can't even find his name in most places. We're living in a different time, but we still feel some vestiges of that in terms of maybe algorithms and stuff like that. And yes, BibleMarriages, we need our own platform. So I'm with you there, brother. If you need any help funding or whatever, let me know. I'll try to figure it out. Right. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on where we're progressing as a movement in terms of headship and patriarchy and polygyny. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm seeing a pretty steady increase, at least in my interactions online. I would think you guys are probably seeing the same. What's really encouraging to me is seeing the people, and Mike said this was his path as well, is the amount of people coming in through the door of polygyny and then the logical progression to just observing God's law. And, you know, because for me, that's the bigger picture, right? I'm not just here to like talk about polygyny and tell people they can have multiple wives and all of that, right? It's like, that's just a doorway into, yeah, we need to obey God's law. We need to return to obedience to Yah. And so I love seeing that, right? And I think anybody that's just following it logically, it ultimately gets to that end, right? And I feel like I'm seeing more women starting to open up to it than maybe 2 years ago, right? And this is anecdotal, right? I have my own platforms that I'm on and just kind of, ear to the ground on it. But I think I'm seeing a lot more men in the comments, men and women, but mostly men, making really good arguments, right? So I'm finding myself not having to engage as much because by the time I get back to my post that I posted, there's a whole thread going and I've got 6 or 7 guys that are super well read and super, good in their argumentation that are already doing it. And I love that, that's great. And it just shows that like the message is getting out there. The truth is getting out there. The arguments are solid. And it's not that complicated. It's not that complicated to defend the truth in this particular topic. And so, like Pete says, our job is to just put the pebbles in the shoe, and they will let them walk around with that pebble in their shoe for long enough and keep planting the seeds, like Yeshua said, right? We can't control the ground that the seed falls on. All we can do is scatter it. So I'm seeing a lot of progress, and it's really good to see more people out there taking a bold stand on social media and in the back and forths and everything. So what about you guys?
Yeah, I would say also too, don't discount the rise in the enthusiasm with this idea of right? Polyamory, right? So there's a lot of people talking about it. I mean, I had a conversation with a young lady probably a little bit over a month ago where she actually approached the conversation. she brought it up in the conversation, and she kind of like hinted like there could have been, like the gate was open for her and I. And one of the things that she wanted to know was, when we did start talking about polygyny, was it okay for a woman, the women to, interact with each other sexually, right? And so there's this fascination, and I just think that it just creates a pull, even though we know that it's not biblical when you start talking about polyamory, but it does create an opportunity for the conversation to be had. So it's not
Yeah.
just what's going on in our space, in terms of us from a biblical perspective, but the world is talking about poly more now.
Right.
Yeah, because they're realizing that this enforced monogamy thing, even on a secular level, doesn't work. Right.
Exactly.
It has an expiration date on it. It works for a little while, but it only works if you enforce a lot of other things that aren't being enforced, like premarital chastity and postmarital chastity and extremely difficult divorce. That's the only way you can get enforced monogamy to even somewhat work.
Right.
And so, yeah, I've long said that the world is going towards poly, and the church overwhelmingly isn't prepared to distinguish biblical polygyny versus the world's poly.
Yes.
And pastors and teachers and men aren't prepared for their congregation, because what's going to happen is you've got, Susie in the pews who's 20 years old, 23 years old, and her secular friends are in polyamorous relationships or whatever. And they've got, or maybe just a polygynous situation. It's a bunch of women with one man. He's got a harem or whatever. And they're looking at it and saying, I see this in the Bible. I see this now in the world, but Pastor Jeff is telling me I got to wait around for the guy that doesn't exist.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. So why can't I just join, the guy behind me in the pew who's got a wife that I love? She's awesome and he's awesome. Like, why can't I join his family? I saw that with Jacob. I saw that with, Abraham. I saw that all through the Bible, and Susie's going to start reading in the scriptures and being like, I don't see God saying this is a problem ever.
Yeah.
But Pastor Jeff is not prepared for it. Pastor Jeff's going to tell her, no, that's just because it's the evil of the world. That's you're
exactly.
And so, I think another part in what we're doing, and Yah's waking up men and women to do, is to be prepared to have that conversation. Right. To be prepared to offer the biblical solution, right? So they don't get sucked into the world's version of it. Right.
Yeah. Exactly. I agree that I'm very much seeing an increase in the conversation, seeing more interest and more openness in the conversation. A couple of anecdotes, I guess personal anecdotes, but one of the things that I would say, for example, recently, I had to take a business trip. My company was paying for me to go to a city that wasn't terribly far out of away. It was a couple hour drive. And I asked permission. I said, can I take both of my ladies? And I think that they were maybe concerned just about the awkwardness. But at the end of the day, I've had this conversation before with them. They know that I have two ladies. And so ultimately they were like, yeah, okay. You're only going to get X amount for meals and we'll pay for your hotel room. And so we got a hotel room that had 2 queen beds, and they traveled with me and actually ended up being allowed to participate with me in some of the parts of the weekend conference. It was a 5 or 6 day conference. It was Thursday through Monday, something like that. So it's a good 5 day conference. And so they got to participate. And there were some things that our company did that were team building, and they were invited along for parts of that. And at the end of the day, I think the team really enjoyed getting to meet them and put faces with names and realize, this is not a weird thing. Pete's actually, he's on the up and up, and it's a righteous deal. And they get along well. And so they were exposed to the reality and seeing it in operation. And I think for them, it was an eye-opening experience. I would agree with you completely that polyandry is it's not biblical. It's here to stay in the culture. It probably was really kind of going on before, but it's actually got a name now and it's out there. And
You mean polyamory?
Polyamory, polyandry.
I'm sorry. Yes, polyamory. Well, polyandry just as much, because you got women that have multiple boyfriends. And anyway,
that's the dating culture. Yeah,
that's the dating culture. Yeah,
right.
Polyamory. I'm sorry. Yeah. But I agree that it's one of those things that we have to help the church prepare for, being able to rightly divide the word. And at the same time, it's useful to us from the perspective that the left will get what they want. They'll keep pushing on it until they get what they want. And we can ride those coattails into having some form of legal status, whether we want it or not.
Right.
I'm not saying I'm a fan of or not a fan of. I'm just saying it can be useful in our defense.
And it can remove some stigma.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I've maintained for a while that I think we're already past the place of the state coming in trying to get somebody. We've got friends that have been in polygynous relationships for 30 and 35 years. And way back in the day, for them, CPS could show up at your house on, or you could go to jail potentially for a felony violation of marriage law.
Right.
That today they wouldn't enforce, because all you have to do is say, well, are you going to get the guy that's got the mistress on the force? You going to go get him? Or the judge that we know he's got a girlfriend, this kind of thing. So I think some of those things are working to our benefit as well. But to go back to kind of what y'all were talking about more towards the beginning, with more people coming into comment sections and defending and putting solid arguments together, I think the most important thing that we need to do, that we need to focus on in terms of the movement for polygyny, is developing more people who can make solid apologetic arguments. Because what we do effectively is multiply ourselves and increase it. It becomes Gideon's army out there with 300 fighting men that can cover lots of ground and, swing a broadsword with really solid arguments that help push this message forward righteously. So what are your thoughts there?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the same thing. You got me thinking about Moses in that situation when it was like, you can't keep doing this all by yourself. You gotta assign some people, because you're gonna get burnt out. So absolutely. Like we gotta,
Exodus 18.
And part of that is just us doing what we do and continuing to do it and continuing to put content out there, continuing to be in the comment section, doing the apologetics, and just helping encourage the men to go out there and do the same, right?
And challenging other teachers, pastors, and others. We do this with the response videos, but I think it's very important for us to challenge them, particularly those that are Torah. They call themselves Torah teachers. I'm going to challenge them. If you're going to speak stupid on this topic, I'm going to challenge you, because you are denigrating the Most High, you're denigrating His word, and you're not upholding the Torah. And so those are the ones that I go after the hardest.
And you should, because I don't see how you can, you call yourself a Torah teacher, a Torah observant teacher, and then you teach against polygyny, because it is so just obnoxiously clear that it is not a violation. And so, the Christian pastors have somewhat of an excuse. It's not a good one, but they at least have somewhat of an excuse to say, well, we don't even think the law applies still. So they get to fall back on well, you're just applying to the old law, and we don't actually think that that's valid anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's a harder transition to get, the non-denominational or the Catholic priest to agree that polygyny is righteous. The Torah teachers have no excuse at all, because they are truly cherry picking. If they try to say, well, we like all this Torah stuff, but not that.
Right.
That's way worse.
And I would say that the church lost the homosexual battle before it ever began, because they had rejected the Torah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They lose this battle equally because they've rejected the Torah. And in fact, I have said it before, and I'd love y'all's thoughts on this, but I've said it before that I don't think the Father will defend your false doctrine. He won't help you defend your false doctrine if it's contrary to his word. It's just not going to happen.
Right. He's not gonna change your biology either.
Right.
He's not gonna change your biology as a man to protect the lie that you believe you're limited to one woman because you were taught that. Right. So you got all these men that are struggling with the desire to have another wife or whatever it is, and they don't understand why, because they truly are bought into this monogamy only false doctrine. They don't understand why their prayers to like take this away from me are not being answered. Well, you're praying for him to take his design away from you instead of understanding there's a righteous way to go about using that desire, right?
Right.
Yeah. They're asking the Most High to override the operating system and rewrite the manual for their feelings.
Right. You know, I think one of the most powerful things to see with all of this is how polygyny swims the same direction in the stream as salvation. You know, it swims in the same direction.
Explain.
I think the more and more as we can explain it and we can expose people to the fact that polygyny is a picture of Yah's plan for salvation. And realize that it was his plan before the garden. From the foundation of the world, there was a plan for us to be conformed to the image of his son, right? That image is about him bringing brides unto himself, virgins unto himself, and consummating at the wedding feast. That plan existed before there was an Adam. That plan existed before there was an Eve, right? And so, it's not counter to the plan of salvation. And a lot of times with just taught about salvation or this thing what that polygyny is, or people you speak to Christians, they will say that, well, it's irrelevant. Is it really irrelevant? Because Yeshua is talking about the idea of him being the bridegroom, coming for virgins, coming for those that are going to prepare themselves, right? And that's the salvation plan in and of itself, right? So if we could just continue to just show that there are just so many semblances of this throughout scriptures, especially in the plan of salvation, that there are so many connections with this, and just keep exposing it. And I think the more and more we expose this in terms of what we're doing on the platforms, what we're doing into our videos, our articles, the books, or whatever it is, or whatever material, whatever content that we're putting out, the more and more that we expose this, I think that people are going to see this more and more. That's how I really see this thing, developing over time, that people are going to be seeing that polygyny is more for us, from Yah's perspective, in terms of his intent for us as a people, as humanity. It is something that's more for us. It's more beneficial to us. Even with there being it not something that is there for most men or a lot of men. There are a lot of men they're just not cut for it, right? Or may not desire it, right? Just naturally may not desire it. But it is a huge part of the salvation plan system that Yah has to redeem people, to redeem his mankind. Man.
Amen. Well said.
Yeah.
Very good stuff. One of the things that I had a note on that I kind of wanted to mention, and this is probably a good place to put this, not that we can go back and put it anywhere else, but right. But when we're getting the message out, I think it's very important for us to make sure that the message is the thing that causes the offense and not us be the thing that causes the offense.
Yes.
It's so easy for us to be acrimonious or antagonistic or abrasive, and I'm guilty. I've done it. I'll probably do it again at some point. But I think in comedy, and also have to understand that there's a difference in how you speak to sometimes there's a difference in how you speak to a public audience, what I can say on video versus what I would say to somebody if I was speaking to them face to face, one-on-one, right? You got more body language and other things, but generally I'm going to do everything I can not to be the stumbling block. I can lead them to the stone that makes the men stumble, but I don't want to be the stone that makes men stumble, right? I don't want them stumbling over me and not getting to the message. I want the message to be the thing that they've got to deal with. And yes, a stone in their shoe. Brother BibleMarriages, you used the image of stone in the shoe, followed immediately by planting seed. And I was thinking about being in the garden the other day, and I got an okra seed in my flip flop, and it was just like a stone. And that was the first time that when you said that I put it together, and I thought maybe it's the seeds that are that are really what's falling in their shoes, because some seeds are big enough to be really uncomfortable to step on. So
yeah, and I would add that something I've transitioned to lately is just, and I think we see this in Yeshua a lot, is asking more questions rather than just telling people what it is. Because I think if you can get people to come to the conclusion on their own, it's going to be a lot faster than trying to just convince them of the truth. And so I've started to just really try to ask questions that make them pull on strings that they're going to have to get to a certain point and realize, okay, well, that can't be true because I accept that this is true.
That is a great tactic.
Yeah. I'm a 1,000% believer and advocate for this idea of questions. There's a analogy that I use that the questions, you have a question mark, and the question mark shapes like a hook. When you put questions out there in a non-offensive, friendly kind of a way, it has a way of hooking inside of a person. And it remains even after long after the conversation. The question remains more than if you just dagger them with just a statement, right, or an attack. Question, it forces them to think. It forces them to think about their position. It forces them to reason within themselves. And when we're reasoning in ourselves, that's how we become educated. The root word education, the Latin word I believe is educo. And it's something that comes from within. So your education process is always, even in a class, like you could take a class in school and everyone fears and dread this class. They dread the teacher because he's an infamy. He has a record known for failing or people failing his class. But the students that goes to the that particular class and applies themselves, right? If they apply themselves, they tend to be more successful than the ones that are standoffish or looking at this as and from a negative perspective. But there's something to be said when information or questions or ideas lingers inside the mind. It forces the mind to learn. That's how we learn. That's how the intellect is designed. It's all about asking questions. And so the questions are very powerful. Very powerful. Yeah. It's like fighting in a fight. You're throwing jabs all night long. The thing that wins fights is the jab, right? Because the jab sets up everything else. Right? The jab will tie it down. The jab will cause the opponent, to become, how would you say, intimidated over time. Because every time they try to move in, they're getting hit with a jab. It's constantly in their face. And then it sets up the punch. It sets up the hook. It sets up the uppercut. It's that jab.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, the question that led me into all of this was, what is adultery? That's what started it all.
Question.
Like trying to figure out what that really is according to the Bible. And it was like one question after the other. So,
that was the same one that began to unravel it for me as well, trying to answer that one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's a powerful thing. Actually, what led me down this journey is as a Christian pastor, I actually discovered this thing called Facebook. Back in 2009, I wasn't on social media before, right? And it didn't take long that, as a pastor, married man, I ran into an ex from college. And it just took us a few clicks, a few conversations, and like in a matter of days, we had started an affair. right? And so now I had the question of adultery, all of that inside my head, and it forced me to study. And I had this quest that I wanted to study great men in scriptures who fell. And when I studied those great men, or I began to study those great men, they all had multiple wives, right? And so that led me down one rabbit hole, and that rabbit hole led me down to another rabbit hole. Then lo and behold, I'm here today. Right.
Right.
Questions. Right.
Lo and
Questions.
behold, you were making videos that were helping the rest of us down the road.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Now, we've gotten this far down along. I want to remind everybody about the Kingdom Restoration Conference. This is July the 9th through the 12th in Knoxville, Tennessee. All of us will be there, as well as a number of other fantastic men and women, some of whom have YouTube channels and ministries related to headship and patriarchy. We've got some amazing speakers that are going to be there. And then, some of the people here in the comment section are going to be there, and I'm hoping more will. You guys, I really would love to have all of you there, because it's an opportunity, not just for a few hours, but for days where we can get together, worship together, sharpen our swords, network, build connectivity, vision cast, and then just learn and grow. We're going to have a lot of things, a lot of opportunities with the different speakers and with some of the breakout sessions to learn and grow. And I always learn. I learn every time I'm around any of you guys. I learn, because these conversations lead to more opportunity to fellowship, more opportunity to learn, get new perspective. I'm always sharpening my arguments and my understanding. I'm happy to be challenged anytime on anything. And I know that's true for each of these men here as well. But we would love to have all of y'all join us at the conference this year in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I just had the banner up. I want to make sure it's back up here. You can go here for registration information. You don't want to wait too late to register. If you make a decision to go, get registered, go ahead and get signed up and all that kind of good stuff. Because registration costs go up, and I forget it's somewhere middle of May or something like that. They go up, even though registration will continue to accept registrations until we're full. Or if we fill up before that, well, we just fill up before that, right? And
we might sell out before registration goes up.
Yeah, so you don't want to wait till the last minute.
Yeah. Pete, you want to run the promo video again?
Yeah, we can do that, guys. Take a look at this. Give you a chance to see again. This is really going to be exciting. We are very excited about everything and those who are going to be there.
The most prophesied event in all of Scripture is the restoration of Kol Israel. And that restoration begins where it always has, in the home, under proper biblical headship and authority. The Kingdom Restoration Conference is back for its second year. Join us in Knoxville, Tennessee, July 9th through 12th as we gather to study Torah, explore headship and patriarchy, and learn how to build family, clan, and tribe the way Scripture intended. This year's speakers include Aubrey and Dr. Rujane Killian, Dr. Yonatan Baruch, teacher Pete Rambo, Mike Allen of Digging in the Word, Ryan Ridgely, Jared Cheshire, and Deborah Augustine of Call for Wisdom, presenting and leading breakout sessions to guide you toward the restoration of Kol Israel. Seating is limited to just 200 participants, so don't wait. Register today at kingdomrestorationconf.com, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Fantastic. Yeah, and this goes back to something to understand is being in the room, being present, having face-to-face contact is so much better than the amount of time that we spend on YouTube or the amount of time that we spend listening to various teachers across the internet or reading books or whatever. You'll get so much from being able to interact face to face, person to person, mano a mano with the men here, as well as the other men and women that are on the advertised in the panel and so on and so forth. So fantastic. All right, gentlemen.
Very much looking forward to it.
I'm excited. I'm excited. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to meeting you face to face for the first time. We've worked together on a lot of things for a while, so it's going to be exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's mutual.
All right, men, I'm going to tell you that we're probably coming to a great place to call it for the evening. I have thoroughly enjoyed spending time with y'all. I always enjoy interacting with each of you as individuals, and it's fun to get the two of you together. And it's going to be fun to see both of you in Knoxville this summer. Can't wait.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Indeed, I'm so looking forward to it. So looking forward to it, man. I got my arm ready, tighten. I'm exercising so that I can give a lot of hugs.
Woo-hoo. Yep. Get that. Get your family crest and banner set up so that you can bring that flag. And excited about that. And I think Bibles. I haven't heard him say anything yet. Have they shown us their flag? Have not. I expect something kind of cool from.
No, still got to work on that. So, yeah,
I'm working on mine too. Yeah.
Mr. Creative, I'm telling you, it's going to be really interesting. So I'm excited about that. So fantastic.
It'll be cool.
All right, gentlemen. And for everybody out there, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I know that these men have. And so I would say for King and Kingdom, we bid you
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.